Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the Fights and community. This is Fighter Strike 95. Happy Sunday, everyone. I hope you're all doing well here today. And today we're back with our National Park series as we're here in part 6 of our journey, and we're covering our first of the 2 national parks here in South Dakota, Wind Cave National Park. Now, of course, if you guys aren't aware about Wind Cave National Park, this national park is unique as it was the first cave to be designated as a national park anywhere in the world. It was established back on January 3rd, 1903. It's very famous for its calcite formation, and it's one of the best known examples of a breathing cave. It's the densest cave system in the world, and it's the 6th longest cave in the world. Wow. A lot of history in this place, really cool national park. It gets overlooked compared to the other national park in the state, Badlands, but Wind Cave has plenty of really cool stuff to explore here in our time. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone here, chat, and all the lurkers. I hope you're all doing well. So we're here in our national park series. So before we get started, here's our nav map here. Let's go over our flight plan for morning streams. So here is our notes. Here is our national park notes for today. So we're going to start here at Mondale Airport. Then from there, we'll fly northwest. We'll reach the Keyhole Reservoir here in Wyoming. Then from there, we're going to head up and make a landing near Devil's Tower National Monument, the first ever national monument in the United States. Devil's Tower. We'll have a quick landing here, and we'll take some pictures of Devil's Tower. Then from there, we'll make our first stop here at Hulett Municipal Airport for our first stop. Then stop number 2, we'll make our way south. We'll head over to the Black Hills region. We'll fly over the famous old west town of Deadwood. Deadwood would be next. Then from Deadwood, we'll head south. We'll head over to our second stop. We'll go to Paradise Valley. And we'll have a stop here in the heart of the Black Hills. Then our third and final leg will take us through Keystone. We'll fly over Mount Rushmore, head west over to the Needles and such near Custer State Park. Then from there, we'll head all our way to Wind Cave National Park. We'll actually land here at the Visitor Center. And we'll make our way over to the Visitor Center for the landing. Visitor Center, we'll talk about a bit about Wind Cave itself. Then from there, we'll head our way down south to Hot Springs, and we'll land here at Hot Springs Municipal Airport, Kilo Hotel Sierra Romeo. That would be our 3 legs for today. Not a super long flight, but again, that is where we're going to be this morning. So we're going to go ahead and cover, we're going to be flying the Slim Savage. Really great plane to fly here today. So, really cool stuff here. Gotta take a second. So yeah, we're taking the Savage again. I thought this would be pretty good. We'll fly around 100 knots or so, 95 to 100 knots. And we'll explore on the scenery here. Let's go ahead and get this going. So here we go, guys. We got our Zlin Savage started. Be nice. So our heading's going to be 312 degrees. And then our first leg, we're going to be flying around 5,500 feet. And we'll need super high altitude. And set this. And we're going to taxi our way into runway 3. So guys, I hope you're doing well this week. We're going to get ready to get going here. So I hope you're all doing well. And by the way, I have one more thing to post in the chat, and that is going to be the National Park website for today. Wind Cave National Park. Our website. Here's our little taxi here, and we're gonna go ahead and take off. We don't really need much of a runway on the Savage. The Savage Norden does not need much runway. Taking off like that. Of course, I can arm the autopilot. Arm it. We're in the air, guys. So I hope you're all doing well this morning. We're gonna climb up to 5,500 feet. I hope you guys are having a good weekend so far. I had a pretty nice trip down in Panama City Beach, Florida, this past week. We did get home a day early, which is why I wanted to do have a day of rest and get back up to par here. So we're going to be covering that here today. So that's why I decided to have a stream here today. I was supposed to do it in October 31st, but I decided, you know what, since I'm back home, so that is why we're here today. So we're just going to do some flying here, always. So, by the way, guys, for our game day sort of stuff, had we done our game day flights this week, it would have obviously been the upcoming El Clasico matchup between Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're playing today. This would have obviously been the game I would have picked this week. Because it's one of the biggest rivalries in world football. Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. The good news is I'm going to probably do this matchup again when we do the series a little bit later sometime. It was just unfortunate with my vacation stuff, we couldn't do it. So let's go ahead and talk about Wind Cave National Park while we're here. As I said earlier, Wind Cave National Park is established back in January 3rd, 1903 by President Theodore Roosevelt. It's the 6th national park in the United States, and it's unique for being the first cave to be designated as a national park anywhere in the world. This cave is notable for its calcite formations, known as boxwork, as well as its frostwork, which is made of argonite or calcite replaced in it. Approximately 95% of the world's discovered boxwork formations are actually found here at Wind Cave. And it's also one of the best known examples of a breathing cave. which is a rare type of cave where atmospheric pressure gradients between the inside and outside of the cave, causing air to flow in and out of the cave. And it's also known as the densest cave system in the world, with the greatest passage volume per cubic mile. It's the world's sixth longest cave in the world, with around 168 miles being explored as of 2025, and the third longest cave in the United States. So the crazy part of this is that this is not even the longest cave in South Dakota. Jewel Cave, which is actually just west of the national park, is actually longer than it. And the longest cave in the United States, by the way, another national park we'll be seeing here later in the series, that would be Mammoth Cave. Of course, above ground, actually, it also has the largest remaining natural mixed grass prairie in the U.S. And it even has its own bison herd. How cool is that? Wind Cave National Park. Really, really underrated park. Sadly, Wind Cave is a relatively overlooked national park. Real shame because it is actually a really neat national park that probably deserves quite a bit more recognition. Sorts. I hope we give you a bit of a background for our national park here to cover here this morning. So that is a little bit about Wind Cave National Park here. So one interesting thing about Wind Cave is I want to talk about its history for this part of the section is the history of Wind Cave National Park. Now, Wind Cave, the history of it, well, Native American tribes knew about this area. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and other Native tribes who traveled to main caves around the area were actually aware of the existence, as were early Euro-American settlers, but there were no recorded evidence that anyone actually entered the cave. The Lakota, who actually lived in the Black Hills region in South Dakota, spoke of a hole in blue air, and they consider it sacred as the site where they first emerged from the underworld, where they had lived before the creation of the world. And it was originally called Washan Naya, and Wind Cave played an important role in the traditions and culture of the Lakota people. The oral history of this place talked about the first human that emerged from the cave, Togahi, symbolizing the emergence from the underworld. And it still is a big part of Lakota culture today. And of course, the Wind Cave and other areas of Black Hole were important to Native peoples, mainly for a lot of spiritual significance. As well. Eventually, when the Lakota were dispossessed, it followed the current history of the country, including the Treaty of Fort Laramie Treaty in 1851, then another one in 1868 reduced the border of Lakota, and then eventually it led to the permanent disposition of the Lakota tribe in 1875. And eventually, with the Dahl Act passed 2 years later in 1877, it was open to settlers and sealed the dispossession of the Lakota from their ancestral lands. Now, the first documented discovery of this cave was discovered by the white Americans in 1881, with the brothers Tom and Jesse Bingham heard wind rushing out of a 10-inch hole in the ground. According to the story, when Tom looked at the hole, the wind exiting the cave blew his hat off his head. Eventually, from 1881 to 1889, few people actually ventured far into the cave. Then, in 1889, South Dakota Mine Company hired Jesse D. McDonald to oversee their mining claim of the cave site. and the mining company hoped to find valuable minerals or may have commercial interest from the cave. But unfortunately for them, and fortunately for the cave, there were no mineral deposits, and the McDonald family then used the cave for tourism. He then hired his son Alvin in 1891, and then his brother Elmer, and Elmer's brother Elmer came to help develop the cave, and eventually the cave was more to tourism. By 1892, the cave was open for visitors. Tourists explored the cave on candlelight guided tours. Eventually, this area became a national park. Just 11 years later, it became a national park. So, very important little history here of Wind Cave National Park. Wind Cave is definitely a very underrated park. So, the National Park website has some really neat stuff to know about the National Park. One big thing you have to know about getting into Wind Cave National Park is, of course, the cave itself. It's cave tours. In order to do that, you're going to have to get a reservation. And because you need an advance reservation for some of the tours, and it's highly recommended because they can get busy pretty quickly, especially for some of the more popular tours, including the Garden Eden tour, the Natural Interest tour, and the Fairgrounds tour, the three most popular ones, and they have to have reservations. But Wind Cave absolutely has some really cool stuff. Important stuff to go over when we talk about Wind Cave now. So guys, I hope you all have a good weekend, of course. So there's definitely some sports stuff I want to catch up to for a little bit. As we're going, I have some sports stuff I do want to catch up with you guys. So in terms of the NFL, for the NFL this weekend's games, of course, going on here today. The Chargers won Thursday night. Not really a surprise, but the big games Thursday today would be the Titans and Colts this Sunday. Big one here, but the biggest game this Sunday is definitely Packers and Steelers. That's a pretty big game this weekend. And of course, the Giants and Eagles should be a good one for the NFL. For Major League Baseball, I bet if Typhon's here in the chat, he'd be pretty excited. As the Toronto Blue Jays just made the World Series, first time since 1993, which is a very long time. And the last time the Blue Jays made the World Series, the series was ended by Joe Carr's famous home run in Game 6. Taj Mahal Joe, one of the most famous World Series moments, and now they're in the World Series, currently tied one each against the Dodgers. Game 3 is tomorrow night, so very interesting matchup, of course. For the NBA, of course, just the NBA season just started, so pretty early. So far, the Pacers are 0-2, sadly. Again, it hurts not having Tyrese Halliburton, and losing Miles Turner also hurts too. Having lost both Halliburton to injury, Miles Turner ended up being really bad. But I think they cover. It's just going to be a tough year. Hey, we have a follow from Captain Yash. See you, Captain Yash. Yeah, good to see you, Captain Yash. I hope you're doing well. We're covering Wind Cave National Park here. we're doing our National Park Series today. Um, so, we're covering Wind Cave. We're gonna have a waypoint here at Keyhole Reservoir, and then we're gonna a little bit of a stop at Devil's Tower. We're actually gonna have a landing stop at Devil's Tower to take some pictures of the national monuments. This aircraft. This aircraft is the Slim Savage Norden. Here it is, the Slim Savage Norden. You get this in Premium Deluxe, I believe, of MSFS 2024. It is actually one of my absolute favorite planes that came in for new planes for 2024. This is one of my favorite. I love it. It can take off, land anywhere, way easier to. It's not nearly as fast as an X-Cub, but I mean it can do everything like the X-Cub can, but it's a little bit smaller and more agile. Oh, nice, Captain Yash. Yeah, the good thing about this sim is it has the entire world in your fingertips. So you can explore a lot of the different parts of the world. It's really cool though. There's so many amazing places in this world that you probably haven't even that many people have not explored, including myself even. So, which is why I'm doing this national park series, because not a lot of people fly into the national parks a lot. Which I think are really cool, and I think it'd be a great way to show the Sim's natural beauty. That's why I'm doing this series here today. But to continue on what I'm saying, though, the recap, the NHL is going on as well. The hockey stuff, we will do one of these eventually. The Canadiens are the best team in the East, followed by the Red Wings, and the Panthers are the top teams in the Atlantic Division. The Metro Division has been mainly by the New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Capitals and Hurricanes are also quite good too. They're not far behind. In the Western Conference, I can't believe this, the Utah Mammoth are leading the Western Conference. Yes, the Mammoth. Which, by the way, they used to be the Arizona Coyotes. And they're now Utah Mammoth. Crazy stuff. And then finally for other sport, and finally for soccer, of course, this past weekend, of course, the big game coming up Saturday. Liverpool lost their fourth straight game to Brentford. Yeah, the defending Premier League champs have lost 4 straight. Not good for all your Liverpool fans out there. To make things worse, Manchester United beat Brighton 4-2, and then of course Sunderland just stunned Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And that's huge because, well, guess who's second in the Premier League? Sunderland. Yes, mind you, recently promoted from the Second Division Championship playoff winner to second in the Premier League. I can't actually believe it's actually happening. Oh boy. Just what a chaotic year. Oh boy. You're right, also slow mode's on. Yeah, I guess so too. So this here is Keyhole Reservoir. It's part of Keyhole State Park. Very popular for water activities here in this part of Wyoming. But you don't get too much water activities outside of the Jackson Hole area. So, but the main next part of the area we'll be talking about is Devil's Tower. Once we turn right, we'll talk a bit about the historic national monument, Devil's Tower. We'll also climb to 6,000. I'm going to go ahead and climb to 6,000. Hard to see with the sunlight. 500 feet per minute. We'll jump to 6,000 feet. You're right. Also, yeah. One of the cool things though about the national parks and stuff is we already covered the 5 national parks before. I have in my Discord, by the way. If you want to check out my Discord. So we've already covered Yellowstone. We covered Yellowstone, Sequoia, Yosemite, Mount Rainier, and Crater Lake. And now we're into Wind Cave, 6th National Park. So we'll be back next week. As for next week's streams, next week we'll cover on our game day flight. I actually picked it for you guys. So our next gameplay flight will actually be heading to Spain, funnily enough, for the next game day flight. That's right, we're going to be in Spain. We're going to cover some derby action here on Sunday, November 2nd. I ultimately picked the matchup here on Saturday, November 1st. And that is Real Sociedad versus Athletic Club at San Sebastian, Spain. That is the game we're going to be covering on Sunday. I picked it over quite a few others. It was just that there wasn't any really good college football matchups that week. Pretty, not really any top matchups this for college football. There really wasn't any important games next week that I can do general aviation wise. For example, some of these fights would be quite long. There really isn't any other major games on next week that can be GA accomplished pretty shortly. Many of these take a long time flying. So that's why I decided to do a soccer match or a football match. For a football match, and I chose Real Sociedad and Athletic Club because these two are pretty big rivals here in Spain. They're very important rivals. They're both founders of the Spanish league and both have won multiple La Liga titles and both represent their clubs in the region itself. So that's why we're doing the Basque Derby here on Friday. And of course, Sunday, our next national park will be Mesa Verde in Colorado. Will be our next national we'll be covering is Mesa Verde. Which is very well known for its historical artifacts of the Pueblos, one of the best preserved ancestral Pueblo sites in the country. So let's go ahead and talk about Devil Tower now. Oh yeah, slow mode's on because people try to spam in the chat. So Devil's Tower National Monument, by the way, is where we're going to be visiting next, is Devil's Tower. Now, this famous national monument is the first ever national monument. It was established by President Theodore Roosevelt on September 24th, 1906. The monument goes around 1,300 acres, but this unique boot is made of igneous rock in the Black Hills, northeast Wyoming. It rises up 1,267 feet above sea level, and the summit is around 5,112 feet. So, Devil's Tower is pretty cool. Now, the indigenous name for this tower is either Mampo Tipla, is for the Lakota language, or in the Cheyenne terms, is Bear Lodge. Is the indigenous name for Devil's Tower. So, really cool thing about this national monument, by the way, it is actually made of igneous rock, made of sedimentary rocks. Oldest ones were laid down by the Triassic. And of course, one interesting thing that created this was ultimately many of the different natural rock formations and stuff happening across over thousands of years. But of course, this area is very sacred to a lot of the native tribes. This is a very sacred area, particularly that of the Kiowa and Lakota. Of course, there are people who try to climb the mountain, but nowadays it is actually illegal now to climb the Devil's Tower, as it is sacred to the native tribes. So pretty cool stuff. We'll make a landing here at Devil's Tower very shortly. We'll actually pay attention. Well, and don't worry, I won't land too close to Devil's Tower. I'll probably keep it a little farther away, obviously. Devil's Tower is right to our left, is the famous national monument. Close, but we'll make a landing very shortly. Cover a bit about the Devil's Tower. Here we go. Devil's Tower is to our left. So we're going to go ahead and make our way down here. Here's Devil's Tower. Here's the famous national monument here, Devil's Tower. Cool area, of course. Here it is, guys. Devil's Tower. So here's our first land stop here of the day. For Devil's Tower, we're gonna do a landing. I'll try and find some open landing spots here. I think over here would be pretty. If no, we can actually go down from the valley and observe it from a distance. So. We don't need to stay here for too long, but we definitely want to check out Devil's Tower. Hey, Canadian Cessna, good morning to you, my dude. I hope you're doing well. We're here at or Devil's Tower here. We're just about to make our a bit of a bush landing here at Devil's Tower National Monument. And make our landing here. I'm gonna go ahead and make our landing. What? Not the best landing in the world. Oh, that's actually not bad. We're gonna go ahead and park. This here is Devil's Tower is behind us is the massive Devil's Tower National Monument. Right here is Devil's Tower, everyone. The first national monument in the U.S. One interesting thing about Devil's Tower, of course, for those who probably don't know about it, this historic national monument is sacred to a lot of the native tribes. According to the traditional beliefs, the Kiowa and Lakota, the story about this came when a group of girls went out to play and were spotted by several giant bears who began to chase them. In an effort to escape the bears, the girls climbed up on top of a rock, fell to their knees, and prayed to the Great Spirit to save them. And hearing those prayers, the Great Spirit made the rock rise the ground towards the heavens so the bears cannot reach the girls. The bears, in an attempt to try and climb the rock, left deep claw marks on the sides, which become too steep to climb, and that's why you see all those markings on the side of Devil's Tower. When the girls reached the sky, they were turned to stars. The Sioux had their own version about two boys that went into the village when the bear Mato wanted to eat them for breakfast. The boys prayed to the Wakan Tonka, the divine, the creator, to help them, and they rose up a huge rock. And when the bear tried to get up, he left huge scratch marks as he did, and the bear ran off, disappointed his courage. And it became, well, what it is today. But yeah, different native tribes have different stories about Devil's Tower. Of course, Devil's Tower is also home to white-tailed deer, prairie dogs, and bald eagles found here in this national park. Yeah, Devil's Tower, really cool national monument, very historic area. So let's get back to our aircraft here, go back in, and get going to our next stop. We're going to go ahead and go to our next stop. Here we go. We're going to climb it to 5,500 feet. We'll make our first landing at Hewlett Municipal. Whiskey 43 is going to be where we're going to be landing here today for our first stop. So, really cool stuff. So one really interesting thing about all this, though, is the fact there have been lots of famous monuments. And just in Wyoming alone, there's also another national monument here in Wyoming. a Kimmerer, and that is also boot. Seen a lot of different fossils. One of the best records of Cenozoic aquatic community. They found all sorts of different extinct fish species. They even found some extinct mammals, including extinct bat species. Various bird species, including prehistoric parrot species, and more. They found a lot of extinct species there. We need stuff, so we make our first landing shortly. Whiskey 4. Getting very close to our first stops. If you guys want to join on in, we're in the Southeast Asia server. So, and we're our nearest airport is on the top right corner. Whiskey 43 is our. That will be our closest airport here. Here's our airport. Go. 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 And we're down. And we're done. That is our first stop up the day here. Here's our route, by the way, if you guys want to actually learn more about our route. Here it is. We'll stay here for just about a minute or two. Anyone else wants to join on in and fly along, they're more than welcome to. we'll go ahead and prepare for the next leg. We'll be making our way over to our next stop, 2 Sierra Delta Zero. We're going to go ahead and get the leg up and going. And up. And go 118. And we're going to climb up to 7,000 feet. It's going to be our next. We're going to climb up to 7,000 feet for this next leg as we make our way down further into Wind Cave, to the direction of the National Park, Wind Cave. So we're going to make our way down to 7,000. Here we go. 7,000. We're going to go ahead and cover the next part about Wind Cave National Park. Let's talk a bit about the ecology, the flora and fauna of our national park. Of course, Wind Cave National Park protects a wide range of eastern and western plant and animal species. In terms of wildlife of the park, they include raccoons, elk, coyotes, skunks, badgers, ferrets, cougars, bobcats, minks, whooping crane, pronghorn, and prairie dog. But most famously, they have their own bison herd. That's the most famous animals of the park, are the bison. In fact, Wind Cave National Park is pretty unique among the park, as it's one of only 7 free-roaming genetically pure herds of bison on public lands in North America. Other 6 in Yellowstone, Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, in Idaho and Montana, Theodore Roosevelt National Park, which we will be visiting later, in North Dakota, Henry Mountains, located in central Utah, Blue Mountain State Park in Minnesota, Minneopa State Park, also in Minnesota, and Elk Island National Park in Alberta, Canada, are the most famous animals. The other 3 herds are located here as well. Of course, in terms of endangered animal species list, the Blackfoot ferret and the whooping crane are both part of the endangered. So, interesting thing about bison, you guys need to be a little careful about these guys. They are large animals and they are very defensive, and they have a very, very rough temperament. And they are also surprisingly agile, and they can run up to 35 miles an hour. But they used, by the way, they used to exist in the hundreds of millions, tens of millions. But it wasn't until the 1870s that it nearly became extinct. Thankfully, though, the bison are making a comeback, thankfully. But yes, people need to be careful. They can be dangerous. So, yes, they can be dangerous to humans. In fact, between 1980 and 1999, more than 3 times as many people get injured by bison in Yellowstone than bears. So yes, bison are more dangerous than bears. So yes, be very careful about bears. Yeah, and yeah, you was right. They can jump a 6-foot fence. Yeah, do not underestimate them. Okay, you want to keep your distance from them. You really don't want to get anywhere near bison. So yeah, do not mess with bison. Okay, if you do that, you're an absolute eat. You're doing that because so. Please don't. If you do, you're an absolute bloody agent, and we don't want to have that scenario happening anytime. Pretty important stuff going on always. So I'll let you guys know when we're doing our next stream stuff for the next week or so. Now, of course, one of the interesting animals in the endangered species list is the black-footed ferret. Now, these are actually part of the mustelid family, that with weasels, badgers, and others, native here to Central North America. And it's about the size of a mink and similar to that of a polecat. And they're very well-known predators of the prairie dogs. However, they declined a lot during the 20th century as a result of the decreases in prairie dog population. And it had also disease issues. Silvatic plague. At one point, it was declared extinct at one point in 1979. However, they discovered a wild population in Wyoming in 1981, and they built a captive breeding program that reintroduced to 8 different U.S. states, Canada, and Mexico between 1991 and 2009. And as of 2015, over 200 individuals are in the wild across 18 populations. Now the list is endangered. Then in 2021, they also did their first successful clone of a ferret in order to help restore the population. Yes, they actually eat prairie dogs. Turns out the animal's made for hunting them because they can actually go into the burrows and hunt the prairie. Pretty interesting animals, though, the black-haired ferrets. Really interesting animals to talk about here. We're finally going to enter into the Black Hills very shortly. Into the Black Hills at long last. So, so we're going to be covering, of course, about the infrastructure of this pretty soon. So I do want to talk about the infrastructure of Wind Cave National Park, just a bit briefly. But briefly covering the national park's infrastructure, there are several roads that run throughout the park, and there's about 30 miles of hiking trails. In 2018, it had around 656,000 visitors in 2018, and more than 109,000 of those toured the cave itself in 2015. The Wind Cave Visitor Center has 3 different exhibits on geology of the caves and early history, the park's wildlife and natural history, and the Civilian Conservation Corps. And you can find the Elk Mile Compound, which is located in the Ponderosa Pine Forest for those with tents and recreational vehicles. Yeah, Wind Cave National Park. It's a pretty neat park, and like I said, there's tons of stuff. You can find a lot of the infrastructure here at the park's website, of course, which is in the chat, by the way. It's actually pinned in the pinned comment if you want to learn more about some of the infrastructure of the park. Check that out. So, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and probably show you guys about Wind Cave National. I'll show you what the site actually looks like. Here we go, guys. Let me go ahead and cover this. So this here is Wind Cave National Park, the park website, by the way. Of course, yes, don't mind the government shutdown thing. Not important. But what is important is about the national park itself. So there's all sorts of stuff here in the sites. So one of the big infrastructure, of course, is the things to do. And there are 3 main things you guys can see here. The cave tours, hiking are the 2 things that mainly do here at this national park. By far the more popular of the 2 is the cave tours. So here's the cave tour stuff. Of course, that's what this national park is famous for. But for mainly the main tours, you need to have tickets, and you also need to have them reserved. Because, yes, it's first come, first serve, and there's a lot of demand for these tickets, obviously, here at the park. So, in order to do that, you need to have up and down the stairs. Not recommend for anyone with claustrophobia, so no fear of tight spaces, heart respiratory conditions, surgeries, illnesses, knee and back problems are still in other limitations. So yeah. But there are 3 major tours here at the park and in the cave. The 3 most popular ones, of course, the ones that had to be reserved, are the Garden of Eden, Natural Entrance, and Fairground Tour. So the Garden of Eden tour is the least strenuous. It gives you a sample of this cave. It's about 1 hour long. It's about 1/4 of a mile in distance. 150 stairs. It's about moderate difficulty. Stairs can be steep, slippery, and dimly lit. But it gives you a little bit of a sample of what this cave offers. It's designed for people who have limited time and abilities. So this is it. Then you have the Natural Entrance Tour. This is the busiest tour, and this is the most well-known tour of the park of it. It's very great for families. It's a bit longer, an hour 15 minutes. 2/3 of a mile, more stairs. But it even visits though the natural entrance to the cave, and visitors can see the largest opening to the cave, and they visit the famous boxwork that visits all over the cave. The last but not least, the Fairgrounds tour is the longest of the tours. 1.5 hours. It's much more strenuous. And you can see popcorn, frostwork, boxwork type of calcites all across the trail, and it's the most strenuous tour. Yeah, there are 3 major tours here in this park that we need to cover, and that is the park is known for. In addition to this as well, hiking's also a big deal here too. But the big thing to take away from here, of course, this isn't really a trail sort. It's not really a hiking park compared to some of the others on the list. Hiking is nice here because you can actually explore some of the natural Black Hills scenery. But here's the thing, though: there actually are better trails in other areas of South Dakota. Yes, this national park definitely has some good trails. That being said, it's not even the best trails in South Dakota. As there are better trails in some other areas of the national parks, including mainly Notch Trail, but mainly in other areas of the national parks. In fact, some of the best trails in South Dakota are actually a place we're going to be visiting down a little bit later in the next lake, that being Custer State Park. So I do want you to guys let you know about some of the different trails and stuff and some of the hiking ones. Some of the easy ones here, Prairie Vista is about 1 mile, but the best trail for easy trail, Rankin Ridge gives you the highest view of the park. You can even see the Badlands on the best day. But, I mean, the scenery is nice here, but like I said, the thing is, it's not even the most scenic part of South Dakota. So here it is, guys. Welcome to the Black Hills region of South Dakota. We're finally into the Black Hills region of South Dakota. So we're finally into the most scenic part of the state, one of the most scenic in the state. We're going to climb up down to 7,000. This here is a beautiful view here of the Black Hills. Absolutely gorgeous region here. We're finally into scenic area of South Dakota. Gorgeous one. we're going to head west. We're going to fly over Deadwood. Now, a bit of a background about Deadwood. This is a very well-known town in the American West. An old western town. And of course, it's well known for its own TV series that was directed about this place called Deadwood. But Deadwood, South Dakota, huge Wild West town. At the height of its heights, 25,000 people lived there, and it attracted a lot of Wild West figures, including Liar, Calamity Jane, Seth Bullock, and Wild Bill Hickok. And the entire area is a National Historic Landmark. Nowadays, there's around about 1,300 people here that live in Deadwood. But like I said, it's a pretty cool little town, rich in history, of course. Lots of very well-known people living here. You can check the old West Town. There's even a little museum here called the Days of 76, where the city was born. Lots of rich history here in Deadwood. Going to visit the old West Town shortly. A beautiful region here in South Dakota. Here it is, guys. We're about to approach the Wild West town of Deadwood. We're gonna go, after we turn here, we'll turn here for the last bit of miles. So. I appreciate you guys for tuning in here today. Tuning in today. Got a lot of stuff going on. Here's guys, here's Deadwood. Here's the old West Town. Here and So here it is, guys. We're continuing to fly down here. We're making our stop here at Paradise Valley. That will be our next stop. We'll stop here for just a little bit. We're just 74 nautical miles from our final stop. So I don't think we have to wait too long as we get here to our last. Stop here. So, yeah, right about now is El Clasico starting. Barcelona Madrid. It's a big sports game here today. So, I hope you guys have some really good plans. I can't wait for going to Mesa Verde. So, Mesa Verde will be our next national park we'll be covering here. We'll be going through Window Rock. So, we're about to make our stop here very shortly, of course. So, so I'll let you guys post it Discord here about. So here we go. We're going to make. Hope you guys have a great day. Of course, a lot of things going on. Obviously, Merch has posted his schedule. So tomorrow he'll be doing the Stole course for his channel tomorrow. So give a shout out for Murphy. Tucho Murphy's going to be back on tomorrow. He's going to be doing the Stole course. I think Allison's streaming today for her new series coming up. It's 1600 Zulu. I don't think we'll raid her today. I think we'll probably end before, unless we could stop at a few places. Here we go. We're going to make our second landing of the day. There we go. Made it to Paradise Valley Airport. A little bush trip. I mean, that's why we're doing this sort of stream here, right in the heart of the Black Hills country. Man. It's absolutely gorgeous. So that will be our second stop of the day. And what kind of animal we're seeing here today? Oh my gosh, it's a goat. Look at that goat. We got a goat sighting here at the national park. The Black Hills, we got a goat. Ah. Yeah, we don't see wildlife sightings every day here in our series. Well, that's probably why we're doing it here too. So we'll be getting back to the plane here in about a minute or two. Back up. We'll get going. Let's get back to our beautiful plane here. Absolutely incredible stuff here. You guys ready for the third and last leg of the stream? Oh, Murph might actually be live. Okay, we might actually raid Murph today. Speak of the devil. Let's go ahead and get back into the sky here for one last leg of our stream. So our next leg, we're going to be flying at around our first leg, 6,500 feet. Go ahead and so we're going to be covering over Custer State Park, of course. We're going to be flying over around what Mount Rushmore would be, but we're mainly going to visit the state park, Custer State Park. It might just be the most well-known state park in South Dakota. This state park is the first and largest state park in South Dakota, named after George Armstrong Custer. Covers around 71,000 acres of land, including rolling prairie grasslands and rugged mountains. It has a herd of 1,500 bison, as well as other animals like elk, coyote, mule deers, mountain goats, prairie dogs, bighorn sheep, pronghorn cougar, and even feral donkeys. The park is known for its scenery, hiking, and drives, the bison herd, and prairie dog towns. But this is an absolutely gorgeous state park. It might even be probably the most scenic, natural, beauty area in all of South Dakota. So we might be able to have a little bit of a stop here. If you guys want to, we can stop. We can actually do lanes anytime you guys want to. We'll take some pictures here. for our park. So we're going to be going to visit Mount Rushmore. So, but yeah, Mount Rushmore is also a national monument here in South Dakota. It's a national memorial, but the thing about Mount Rushmore though is it's actually one of the more visited places of the National Park Service. 2.4 million people visited in 2022. It was actually sculpted. The Mount Rushmore itself was later sculpted by Harold Spitznagel. He is actually the architect um, for Mount Rushmore. Features the faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. However, the major controversy with Mount Rushmore was the fact it was because it was taken from the Sioux. It was built on land taken from the Sioux Nation in the 1870s, and the Sioux have still tried to the result. So that is a bit about Mount Rushmore. Now, of course, we need to visit so there's definitely some really cool stuff here in the national park. So we're going to make our way over to Mount Rushmore National Memorial. See if it's there. Then we'll do a landing in one of the areas of Custer State Park. Check out Custer. So I do want to ask you guys a certain question though. For the National Park series, what would be your guys' favorite national park that we've done so far in the series? Wanting to learn more about our parks. So some of my favorite national parks that have flown in the sim so far for our series. I think my favorite part of this series that we've flown was probably Yosemite, Mount Rainier, and Crater in Sequoia were some of my favorite parks I've flown over. Yosemite was a favorite. Rainier was absolutely amazing. So was Crater Lake. All the national parks have been absolutely stunning here. And I think Wind Cave probably no different. I think Wind Cave will probably be my least favorite, but not because it's a bad park. In fact, I think it's cool. So here's, guys, Mount Rushmore. I think that's it. There's Rushmore. We can make a landing here in Mount Rushmore. Go ahead and make a landing here. Might get a good shot at the National Monument, Mount Rushmore. But man, we're getting down to the really scenic stuff here in South Dakota. Here we go, Mount Rushmore. Go, Mount Rushmore. Left, and we're going to climb. We want to make our way to Blackout Peak. And that is Blackout Peak is the highest summit in the U.S. of the Rocky Mountains. The native name for it is Hinhonkaga Owlmaker Lakota, or Hihaka Sapa Elk Black, name of peak. We're going to go ahead and actually make a landing at the top of Blackout Peak. This should overlook a bit about the Black Hills, and we should get some absolute stunning scenery here in the Black Hills of South Dakota. So what makes the Black Hills a unique area here in South Dakota? It's very different from the rest of South Dakota. How it actually came to happen happened over hundreds of millions of years. But it's very different from the rest of South Dakota. For one, a lot of it's potter oak, pine, and spruce trees. And compared to the rest of South Dakota, it's actually a very diverse. We're going to land at the top of the peak. So it could be a tough land. I know this is going to be a very tough land. Back it up. This is Black Oak Peak. You know, this isn't really a great landing site. As you can tell from up here, you can actually a lot of the really beautiful areas of this part of South Dakota. Yeah, look at the landscape, guys. Look at the view from up here, guys. This is absolutely stunning view. Look at that. Let's take a picture or two. And that is the view of the Black Hills. Yeah, this is the highest point east of the Rockies. But yeah, really cool area. It's gorgeous. Stuff like this is why I like this sim a lot. The beautiful views of the scenery all across. Let's go ahead and get back to our aircraft. We're going to make our way through to Wind Cave National. Yeah, the viewpoint's absolutely crazy. Black Hills are just absolutely gorgeous today. Tim did a really good job modeling that. Custer State Park, probably the most scenic area in all of South Dakota, and rightfully so. Just some of these views are absolutely insane. Absolutely incredible. And just imagine driving, dude, hiking. like this area. So we'll go through here across the Black Hills after we leave Custer State Park. Make our way over to Wind Cave. We're going to save the last part of our slides last when we land at the visitor center. If you guys don't mind, we'll cover the last bits of notes when we get to the visitor. We're just going to mainly check out I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is absolutely breathtaking scenery today. Love the scenery in the Black Hills, South Dakota. Gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead and look for a bit, of course. Just looking at some of the scores here. Oh my gosh, Real Madrid just scored. Kylian Mbappe got a goal in the 22nd minute. El Clasico is now 1-0 for Real Madrid. We're going to be going over to one waypoint is going to be Rankin Ridge. Going to be one of our waypoints, and Rankin Ridge is actually the highest point in the national park. And we're going to stop in Rankin Ridge, and we'll check out Rankin Ridge, which is the highest point in the national park, and it has some really neat views, so we're going to go check that out. We're going to go even lower. We're going to go down to 6. Got the 184 degrees. Going down. What do you guys think about the Black Hills? I think it's really cool. The scenery here is absolutely awesome. We're going to check out Rankin Point, which is the highest point in the national park. But yeah, some of the photos I've seen here are really just incredible. Like I said, we have some very underrated parks. It doesn't just We'll stop here at Rankin Ridge, highest point of the park. And then after we go to Rankin Ridge, we'll just go through the canyon and stuff. Check out Holbrook Canyon and Wind Cave Canyon. It's some pretty interesting little parts of the park. Fly briefly over. And then we'll land at the visitor center, talk about our last slide, and then we'll get into the airport. Yes. Should be an absolutely cool time. And if you want to check and look at some of the trails of the park, let me post this in the chat for you guys. Go. This here is Rankin Ridge. This is the highest point of the national park. This is Ridge. So from out here, you can actually see the grassland stuff. And we're getting lower to Wind Cave. We got rain. Now we're going to enter into the canyon here. We're going to enter into Limestone Canyon. We're going to enter in quite a few of the areas for canyonist points here at the park. This is the canyon here, Twin Cave. Pretty cool, huh? Go. So I think we're gonna raid Allison probably today. I don't ever raid Al. Raided more times than Alice. Allison Jim. Here it is, guys. Wind Cave Canyon. Cool area. Here at the park. The visitor center should come soon. We'll have one last landing here. Take one last picture, and then we'll head out and make our final landing. Sierra Hotel Sierra Romeo. So here it is, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put down the park. Down. So this is Prairie View Trail. We're going to go back to the Wade Canyon Cave. Head and make our landing right over here. Now we can officially park. This here is the Wind Cave Visitor Center here at the park. So that's our last picture. So our last slide for today is talking about something very important for this national park. And that is geology. And this is the most important area of the national park. And that is this park's is its geology. Now, one very interesting thing about this national park is geology. You see, this national park, Wind Cave, there are 3 levels that make up the Wind Cave system. They're located in the upper 76 meters of its limestone. This area was deposited in an inland sea with chert and anhydrite lenses within the limestone have a lot of evaporations. When those sea levels dropped after the end of the Mississippi, dissolution of limestone formed a paleokarst terrain, has its own fissures, holes, and caves. So there's a lot of unconformity existing between limestone and the overlying Pennsylvanian formation that was formed. Those red sands and clays filled in the cavities, and systemic deposition of different types of shale, limestone, spearfish, and more fall throughout the age, continue to add up more and more. And what truly built this area into a cave was geologic uplift starting during the Laramie period, lowering the water table allowed the drain system to cave and enlarging it. Today, the water level is 150 meters below the surface. Of course, boxwork pattern are first noted here in Wind Cave, and these calcite fins were once cracks filled by gypsum and hydride. Calcite gypsum pseudomorphs are common, and they release sulfuric acid, the bedrock, allowing it to weather quicker, resulting in open cheap and protrude from the bedrock here. Lower levels of the cave have boxwork featured with frostwork and cave popcorn, which is basically nodes of calcite, argonite, or gypsum formed on the surface. They also have calcite bushes discovered here too, as well as moon milk and calcite rafts in the lower levels of the cave system. Yes, lots of really cool stuff for all you geologists out there. Cool stuff, and I actually put a video up here for someone that's actually been doing the exploration of Wind Cave, and you guys want to actually see what it looks like inside. So that's it, everyone. We're going to go ahead and take off here. Say goodbye. We're going to go ahead and climb 5,000 feet. Say goodbye to Wind Cave National Park. So I hope you guys enjoyed this trip. Really cool area, underrated national park. It's easy to overlook this park considering it doesn't have anything like truly jaw-dropping outside. But I'll tell you that inside the Wind Cave is so worth it, though. It's a really neat area to explore. We're gonna blitz through this pretty quickly. We're just 11 miles out from our final stop. Yes, thank you guys so much for coming here today. Enjoy this trip. Here we go, guys. We're going to go here and we're going to turn left very soon. This is Hot Springs, South Dakota, the closest town to the national park. And then left. So here we go, guys. Our final lane of the day. Here we go. We're going to do this. And that's it, everyone. We made it. So that's it, everyone. We're gonna go. So this is welcome to our end of our stream here at Hot Springs Municipal Airport here, South Dakota. So, guys, thank you all so much for coming here today. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. We're gonna go say hello to Allison Johnson. I don't usually rate Allie, so this would be perfect. She's doing her flight over the Grand Canyon. We're gonna be visiting this park. So we'll be checking that out in the future. So we'll be back on Friday. We'll see you in the Basque Country. We're going to be starting in France. So I hope to see you all again soon and take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.